Hello, today I will be painting Lukas the Trickster. He's one of the older Finecast models from Games Workshop. He was an absolute nightmare to demold. There was a lot of extra flash on him, bits and bobs here and there that needed cutting off. As I say, he is one of the older Finecasts, so the quality of him is nowhere near as good as what they are nowadays. But here's how I did it. Starting off, non-black undercoat. Use whatever you like. I use a matte one because I find it sticks better the next layer. All the armour we're going to paint in rust grey to begin with. So once the undercoat's dried, start adding on your rust grey to any of the armour parts, any of the power armour. With this you have to go round a lot of different things, but don't worry if you get some on there, you can always tidy it up with a bit of black afterwards, and then just keep going around until you cover all the armour. Remembering to do the backpack as well. I'd leave the two wolves heads on the side because I'll probably do them gold, but all that will need doing also. So now all the rust grey's on, we'll take Drakenhof Nightshade and give it a wash in that. Now just a little thing to do here. Show you on here, just give it a wash all over and then just rub off the topmost bits with your finger like that, because then it'll give more validity to the shadows. So we'll go down a little bit and then hopefully the bottom bit there will be darker because you wipe the top bit with your finger, and then just go over the whole thing like that. Just wipe off any excess that you don't need. It just gives you a little bit of extra shadow, or if you don't have to do that, but I just find it's a nice easy step and it gives you a good result. And so all the edges are already highlighted, and then we can also go over with a rust grey again just to pick them out a bit better. And any of your really deep recesses, you can always add a bit more in if you want to. Obviously go over the whole model with this sort of technique again. Okay, so where we're at now, we've got the main part of the blue on. I've gone around and put a bit more black on. The highlights have started, the wash has been done, but you can see on the hand how that works when you rub a bit off as the wash is wet. So next things to do is clear up anywhere where it's gone a little bit out, where there was a bit too much wash or doesn't look quite right. Just go in with a little bit of rust grey, quite watered down. So I've got a bit on the leg here I'm not very happy with, so I'm just going to add a bit to the middle of it just to clear that up until I'm happy with it. If it doesn't blend in very well, just add a bit of water to it while it's still wet and just rub it around just until it gives you a nice smooth blend. Right, so that's that. The next thing, once you've gone over the whole model, touched up all the little bits you need to, like there, there's one. Then we can get some normal rust grey and start the first highlight, the edge highlight, like you would with any other Space Marine. Anywhere where there's a sharp object turning, usually facing up, just do your edge highlights. You can always go by where the shading's gone as well. So where the wash has gone, obviously you ain't going to highlight over wash, and that just gives you a bit of an idea where you go about it. So again, that's the next step, go all over the model with that. For the final edge highlight, use some Fenrisian grey. This one, as usual, you do a lot less than you would with any of the other highlights, just to pick out them top bits and the most light catching bits. Like on, there's a little square on his thumb there. So I will do the top corner of it, not the whole thing, just the top corner, just to show that that's caught the light. Once again, go over the whole thing like that, and then that's pretty much the blue done. That's all the armour done. Next, you've got to think how much of that is going to stay black, how much of it is going to be yellow or bronze or gold or bone colour. So next you've got to consider that. What I usually do is undercoat it in a light brown. I've got a P3 formula one here. That's the only reason is because I picked it up cheap. But bootstrap leather, and it's actually quite a good paint. So I'm going to go over all the little bits of leather, over his skin, any of the bone areas, the hair, anywhere, just to lighten up the black so the next layer goes on a bit better. Obviously the gun's staying black, so that won't go on there. The claws have been going to be metal, shiny one, so we'll probably use lead belcher for the metallic there, and then highlight it with something like chainmail, so that doesn't need to be changed colour. The black will suit it a lot better. So once that's done, again, you can cover over all of this as well. It's underneath of the backpack of the fur, I want to do Screamer Pink. I want it to be a fleshy sort of colour, so I'm going to start off with Screamer Pink. I was thinking the fur, just do it brown, but Fenrisian, it's going to be Arctic-y, it's going to be very light, so I'm going to go over it all with Fenrisian Grey as the start coat with that. See how it looks afterwards. It might look a bit too meshed in with the rest of it, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, so I'm going to crack on with that, and then we'll continue. Okay, so now we're in a place where anything that's going to be lighter is got brown underneath it. Anything that's going to stay black is black. Anything that's going to be metallic, especially silver, the metal colour, like the gunmetal colour, that's black as well. I've also done his head and his hair brown. That's just to lighten it up, so I'm not painting straight onto black. Done all his belt, all the bone bits, everything on there. The shoulder pads I'm mainly going to do yellow. They look like that on the box, so I'm going to copy that. Any of the metal, obviously that's going to be lead belcher. Yeah, so the next thing we're going to do is any of the metal, as I say. So you've got loads on there. You've got all the claws, all these pipes. I might do a few bits of the gun just to break the gun up a little bit. There's some pipes under here. There's a little thing there which I don't want to say about because it kind of ruins the story. If you haven't read it yet, which I definitely recommend doing because it is a really good one. It's very light-hearted for most of it, a bit of fun. So yeah, basically all of the claws. As I said, any little pipes or anything sticking out, I mean, I'll try to just dry brush them so it leaves a bit of the black in there. But once all the metallics are done, the lead belcher, give them a wash with normal oil, and then give them a re-highlight if you need to with lead belcher, just to tidy it up. The next bit is any bronzes. I'm going to use Balthasar Gold. I know it says gold, but it does look a lot more bronze, and it's a lot nicer finish than a lot of the bronzes that are out there. So maybe the outer rim of his shoulder pad, that can have a bit on there. The top part of this one, a lot of these shoulder pads are actually covered over by the backpack, so you don't have to be too neat with them as long as the corners are. Anything else that you want to do metallic, bronzer, just go over now with this. I mean, it's not loads on there, but just a few things just to make it, break it up a little bit. once again, same sort of thing. One thing I've noticed is these kind of gems on here, these square gems, so I'm going to paint the outer of it bronze and then paint the gem later on when I decide which colour I'm going to do it. And then once again, all of that Agrax Earthshade wash, and then highlight it again with a Balthasar Gold just to tidy it up. Next will be the yellow. Mainly on this, I think it's only going to be the shoulder pads that I'm going to do yellow. So I'll do all the shoulder pad apart from the bits that I'm going to do the Balthasar Gold, and then I'll give them a wash, just a thin wash with Reikland Fest Shade, and then obviously re-go over it with the Uriel Yellow. For bones, all the little bone bits where you actually look closely, there is a hell of a lot of them. So Upshupty bone first, and then I actually use a contrast paint for this. Skeleton Horde works really well. I will be putting that on then, obviously using the Upshupty bone, and we'll put a further highlight on later. On the backpack you've got these two big wolf's heads. I'm going to do them in the Balthasar Gold as well, just so they'll stand out a little bit more on the back. We'll do more work on the backpack, on the cape, on the furs later. It needs a wash and then highlighting, but I want to get the main part of the model done, then get that all done together. So yeah, that's where I'm at now, and there we go, I'll crack on with it. Okay, with them colours done, the shoulder pads now being yellow. The one thing I did forget to mention was all the leather, which I left brown and then shaded with Agrax Earthshade. The bones are done. Any of these little trinkets have been done. The only thing I've left is his face, skin and his hair. So the only thing I want to do now is just add highlights to those bits I've just done. So for any of the gunmetal, I'm going to add Ironbreaker as a highlight. For any of the yellow, like with the shoulder pads, I'm going to add flash kits. These will be just little edge highlights, just to make the edges pop out a bit. On the bones, I'm going to use Screaming Skull. And then on all the leather bits, I'm going to try Gorsword Brown, just to finish off them bits. So once they're all done, we'll move on to the face and the hair, and then do the backpack. So yep, I'll grab it on with that. Okay, so now we're at the stage where we've got to do the hair and face. The only other thing I've done is added a bit of red on the wires, and done the gems. Started off with Mephisto red, added Evil Sun Scarlet, Wild Rider red, and eventually Fire Dragon Bright, just to bring them gems up. I also, the black I highlighted with Eshin Grey, and then the blue on the gun was a layer of Teslas blue, and then highlighted with Lothern blue. Right, so with the hair, see if you can see that. Right, so the hair is going to be a mix of the light brown, which is bootstrap leather I've got, and Fire Dragon Bright to give it that sort of fiery look. Mix them two together, put a coat on, and then when I add a highlight, I'll add Upshupty bone to that. And for the skin tone, I'm going to start off with Bugman's Glow, and then almost completely cover that with Cadian Flesh Tone, and then highlight that with Kislev Flesh, and then Reikland Flash shade the whole lot, and if it's a bit too dark I'll add the Kislev Flesh again. And then once that's done, it's on to the backpack and the cape. So right, I'll get on with that. Right, so now the skin tones are done, as well as the hair. You can see that, the eyes are done, the teeth, I just put a bit of Screaming Skull. The only extra thing I added was to the hair a little bit of Reikland Flesh shade. Once I've done all that, I give the inside of the cloak a wash of Grex Earth shade, and the fur, obviously it was Fenrisian Grey first. I gave it a wash of Drakenhof Nightshade. Once that had dried, a dry brush of Fenrisian Grey again, then a dry brush of Ulthuan Grey, because I wanted it to look kind of snowy, like it'd be an animal that hid in the snow. For the claws, I've just done them black with a bit of Eshin Grey to highlight them. So now that's all done, that's pretty much the model painted. The only other thing I want to do is put some blood coming off the claw. So how I'm going to do that is a bit of UV resin and have it dripping. If I leave it that way, then it's going to look like he's come back, he's slashed something, and the blood's coming off this way. That's the idea. Whether it'll work like that, not so different matter. So first off, I've got to try and support it the way that I want it. There we go. So I mean, this stuff's great. Any sort of water effects you want, or blood, anything like that, do the trick really well. So what I'm waiting for is it to drip through, and as it drips through, it starts to get to the right minute. That'll be a good start off with. Then just use the UV light to make it set. Once it's set, I can add a little more on and make that a little bit longer. You can also use things like glossy Mod Podge. Once this is set, I'm also going to then add a little bit of a clear red glaze to it. I've got a few different colours, but one of the best ones I found is the Tamiya Clear Red. So I'll give it a coat with that. Usually don't take that long, so that should be about, yeah, that's dried. So let's add a bit more on. Oh, I'm just going to wait for that drip to go a little bit longer, hopefully. And encourage it. So yeah, basically I'm just going to keep adding layers until I've got that the way I want it. Okay, so I've got the shape that I want. I've just realised I'm out of Tamiya Red Clear, so I'm going to try with Bloodletter Glaze, see what that does. Fingers crossed it'll do the same sort of thing. I think it's going to take a few coats. Yeah, it looks quite good. But as I say, it's going to take a few coats just to get a decent amount on there. So I'll crack on with that, and then I'll look at doing the base. Okay, now the blood is done. I messed about with it, took a little bit off, added a bit more until I was happy with it. So next for the base, what I'm thinking, I'm going to use slightly larger base. Add in parts of a Dark Eldar. This is just an old one I had. It's got a bit of black and green on it, but I want it to look like he's taken a big chunk out of it. So what I'm going to do is just cut through. Like that. You could probably do a bit of a better job than that, but I'm just going to leave it as that. It's oh, I had to come off. So yeah, just off the torso. Can reattach his head, that's not a problem. And then we'll also need an arm. I'm just going to add an arm in here. And then the other arm. What I'm going to do is keep these extra bits for later use, because I may use them on the base later. But what I am going to want is some organs. So what I'm going to do is cut it in a bit there, so there's a bit of a hole, maybe drill it and cut a bit out, because then I can add some green stuff, so there's basically entrails coming out of there. So I'll get on with that and we'll see how it looks. Okay, now with that done, I'm just going to paint him up, make him look a bit neater, add a bit of blood and gut sort of look to the bits of green stuff that I've added. And then I'm going to put snow all around it and add a bit of red to the snow. To make the snow, I'm going to mix some gloss Mod Podge, some sodium bicarbonate and some white paint. The gloss Mod Podge gives it that shiny look. Obviously the bicarbonate soda makes it look like snow, and the white keeps it white, because if you don't, it can often go yellow over time. So just mix it in equal parts until you got a nice thick but still runny consistency. You don't want it to be dripping off, but you don't want it to be solid. You want it to give it a nice smooth finish, and then we'll just add Lukas on in the end. So I'll get on with that. Okay, so we are all finished. What I did with the blood and guts, the guts I used Screamer Pink and then highlighted it with Scream Pink Horror, and then with the blood, just to add a bit more effect, I used the Bloodletter Glaze and add a bit of Mephiston red to it, and then just dabbled it on the actual snow effect, just so it looks like it's bleeding out into it. I think some of them are a little bit too thick, them tendrils, but it gets the job done. So next I'm going to build a little scene for him. It's just something I've been considering for a little while, looking at doing. So that's what will be the next video. So this is the end of this video. If you got any questions about it, please feel free to ask. See you later.